Welcome to Delphine Circle in Harmonium, where conscious conversations spark transformation. I'm your host, Delphine Channels. Let's jump in.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Delphine Circle in Harmonium. I am super excited today because I'm coming to you from the beautiful Laguna Beach, out here to spend some time with my gorgeous friend, Trish Mangold. Trish is our guest, our special guest on today's show, and she's a holistic health practitioner and my go-to guide for anything health and nutrition. She's so incredibly knowledgeable, and we've been wanting to do this for a very long time. So I'm so happy that today's the day. Trish is also the founder of the Mangold method, which is a specific program that she has designed, and I'm going to let her tell you more about that. So without further ado, welcome Trish Mangold.
Hi, Delphine. Hi, everyone in Harmonium. Thank you for this opportunity to discuss what I'm so passionate about. And yeah, it's good to be here.
Well, we have so much to talk about today because we decided that of the gazillions of things I could talk to you about, and I think we will talk about, we decided to start with testing, because personalized testing is such a huge growing segment of the health and nutrition industry. And you've really done a deep dive on this, and you really are bringing us some really great information about what to look for and the importance of it. So for sure, we're going to dive in there. But before we get started, just give us a little bit of a background. Tell us what we need to know about where you came from, what your background in terms of education. I know you've got a ton of certification and education, and also what inspired you to get into the health industry.
Wonderful. Well, after UCLA, actually at UCLA, I was studying our work environments, our buildings, and our homes. And I thought I was passionate about optimizing, our workplaces where we spend a lot of our time. And then I realized that we're always going to be exposed to environmental stuff. And we've got genetic predispositions that can make some people more vulnerable than others. We all have different sized toxic buckets that can tip. What might tip my bucket over is different from what might tip your bucket over. And so I thought, why don't we just work on optimizing our internal terrain, meaning our health and vitality, and building resilience at the cellular level, so that whatever life presents to us, whether we're exposed driving down the street to, driving by a construction site, or living in a home, maybe we stayed in an Airbnb where there was some mold. Why don't we look at optimizing our internal environment so that we don't have to be fearful of our external environment? So that's kind of where I've gone with health and vitality. And then after studying at UCLA, I found myself at the Natural Healing Institute of Naturopathy, where I got certified in holistic health. And then my industry, it can get a little greenwashed. The world of biohacking can be very confusing. And in my clinical practice and working with clients, I've realized that there's no one size fits all approach. And there's no one size fits all diet, nor exercise, nor biohacking modality. We really have to look at the whole mind and body in context. So what that means is a single factor of high cholesterol might not really mean that there's a problem. I believe the body doesn't make mistakes. There's a reason why that's going on. If we have an imbalance of candida or gut imbalance, we have to look at a lot of other factors as well. And that includes how well we detox, how well we think, even our thoughts. And so during my sort of education, I've just been constantly learning and looking at the latest science and research of epigenetics. Fortunately for us, we live in a very exciting time where testing has become more affordable and accessible. We don't necessarily need to give our power away to a label or fear our genetics. We have way more power than we've been led to believe when it comes to how well we feel, think, and age. And that's basically the foundation of what I want to educate people on and empower them, because I'm not a healer. I'm just a guide on your healing journey. And when we look at the cellular level, at the DNA level, we can really get personalized and really up-level just our resilience and how well we feel and think every day.
Well, I am so happy that we're talking about this topic because this is such a broad area. It's so important for us to have an understanding of what's going on in our bodies, and yet it's been difficult for multiple reasons. But let's just talk about the two biggest ones. One is so much competitive information out there, right? It's you read something and then you'll read something that's in total conflict, and it's always really difficult to know who to listen to. And then the second part of it is how our medical professionals, people we've been trained to go to for information about this, really are not very knowledgeable when it comes to nutrition. And Dr. Casey Means recently in a conversation in front of Congress said that she didn't take one nutrition class in her entire Stanford med school education, which I think is, sounding the alarm that, yes, we need to take matters into our own hands and figure out our health in and of itself. And these tests are really helping us to do that. So let's dive in and start with the basics. So what exactly is personalized health assessment, and how does it differ from the typical physical you'd get from the conventional doctor's office?
That's a great question, Delphine. So when you look at standard labs, it basically looks at these things at any given point in your life. It doesn't really consider bioindividuality when it comes to, it basically compares you to the standard person for your age group. And if you look at the standard American today, over 60% of us are on one lifestyle medication or more. And I say lifestyle medication, and that emphasis is so important because it's what got you there is your lifestyle. It's not your genetics necessarily. We've been kind of led to believe that genetics are our fate. We don't really have a lot of control of how, to an extent of, doing the best we can with diet and exercise and eating clean. We really don't have that much control of how well we, age, and if we have a family history of, diabetes or obesity or Alzheimer's even, or chronic conditions like high blood pressure and cholesterol. These things are just going to be part of our future, right? We just kind of wait for the other shoe to drop. But what precision medicine does, so standard care looks at these markers. They don't often consider where you are, especially for a woman in your hormonal profile. For years, I would see my OB and get my standard, boxes checked, and everything came back fine. I'm 46 now, everything's still normal, but for a lot of women, that's not the story. They go to their doctors and they're feeling off, and they keep being told that they're in their normal ranges. But it's very frustrating when something's off and you're feeling anything but normal. Unfortunately, with the standard care, you're compared to the standard American for your age group, and it's normalized that you should expect to probably be on one or more lifestyle related medication, these forever medications, without any conversation around personalization and what that looks like for you, for optimizing how well you feel and think and age without having to have a metabolic assistance with a medication. Is that answering a question? When you compare the standard medicine and then what functional and holistic health looks at, the body as a whole, it doesn't just look at blood serum, which is often your standard blood work. It's a flash in the pan of what's been going on at best, maybe the last 3 months. That's when you're looking at your A1C. But often we now know modern science has caught up. A1C, people will tell you it's a very inexpensive test. But even when you go to get your standard blood work for your doctor, you don't, unless you ask for it, they don't necessarily include it. And it's like less than $8.
What does A1C tell us?
So A1C is your average blood sugar over the last 3 months. So this is something you kind of want under 5. Well, you absolutely want under 5, and that's Dr. Casey Means is in congruence with that. Most doctors will say that that's an indication of your insulin resistance. And we know that metabolic disease, everything is related to insulin sensitivity. So once you get your insulin and cortisol in check, those metabolic conditions, including type 2 diabetes, can be managed without medications. And
that's why you think that this testing has become like so popular and like the gold standard now is because without this information, we really don't know how healthy we are, or how we're aging, or how we're the disease.
Yeah, standard care doesn't put it into context. So when you look at functional labs, you're looking at optimization, not just your standard and normalizing metabolic disease for age-related diseases that don't have to be part of you could break that family legacy, or if you're you can avoid a diagnosis if you've hit the genetic lottery. And unfortunately, from our grandparents' generations weren't exposed to the toxic soup that we live in today. And I'm not here to be fearful about that toxic soup, but what I am here to do is educate and empower people how to optimize their vitality at the cellular level so they don't have to worry so much about eating out and every little thing they put in their mouth, because that could be overwhelming, and that's no way to live. You want to have the dessert, you want to go out and have a few drinks with friends, but you want to be able to bounce back and not have the balance where you're limiting the toxic burden on your cells so that you can live with vitality for as long as possible.
And do you think that, I think what I see and hear a lot is that people are afraid that the information is too much. They can't handle it. It's too overwhelming. Even if they had it, they're not going to be making all, it's almost like they just want to put blinders on and say, I don't know if I can handle it.
Absolutely.
And do you believe that with this type of testing, when the results come out, is it doable for people to actually integrate the lessons into their life? Is this really a helpful thing?
Yeah, that's really a great question. And I get it all the time. People are like, I'm not sure I'm ready for that information, or, they're my genes. That's kind of, do I really, I'm just going to live my life, and there's nothing I can do about the health issues that run in my family. Well, that's actually outdated science. If you look at the work of Dr. Bruce Lipton, well, before I go into his work, I will say that you don't inherit disease, you inherit potential weaknesses. And so with that, genetic testing and personalized strategies, the tests that I highly recommend are really very actionable. They're not overwhelming. There are some out on the market that are absolutely overwhelming. But for instance, imagine just doing a cheek swab at home, getting a test sent to your door, doing a cheek swab, sending that in, and getting results that can tell you out of 103 actionable genes, this is one formula, I have it right here. I have my code complex, which is condensed into one formula, a simple whole food-based supplement that your body can actually absorb. Most of the vitamins out there are man-made. Your body does not recognize them as vitamins and nutrients. You need the cofactors of certain things to actually get into the cell and nurture your genetic weaknesses. This is not a one-size-fits-all approach. It can be very
overwhelming. This is your test number 1, right?
Yes.
Okay. So this is test number 1, and it's called Code Age.
This one's called SNP Nutrigenomics.
Okay.
Nutrigenomics. It's a simple cheek swab, again, sent to your door, and what it tests 103 actionable genes, so that addresses what you can actually do to change. You cannot change your eye color. That's not an actionable gene, but you can change how well you methylate. Methylation gets a lot of hype and conversation around it. A lot of people relate it to.
What is methylation?
Yeah, so it's basically like a little switch on your genes that either turns your genes on or turns your genes off, and at the right time. And so it can turn off genetic weaknesses, and it can turn on genetic strengths. Your genes, what you inherit is from mom and dad, loads the gun, but it's the way you think. So understanding that, being empowered just with the idea that 70%, 75% of how well you feel, think, and age, and your genetic expression is based on your environment and how you care for your body and nourish your mind and body. And just knowing that alone without doing any testing at all is very empowering, because even if you were fearful that, cancer ran in your family, it doesn't have to be your story. You can break that legacy.
And I think that's so empowering because when I read Bruce Lipton's Biology of Belief, that was groundbreaking. I mean, we all were raised with this idea that there was some kind of predisposition that you're either going to have the same thing, you're not going to have the same thing, and there's nothing you can do about it, and you just live with it, and might as well not know, because who wants to know if they're going to have some horrible disease? And that's actually not true. We were kind of raised with misinformation, and now we understand, to your point, and if I'm hearing you correctly, that there are specific opportunities for where disease might progress, but if you have an understanding of where those areas are, you're able to actually go in and maybe switch some of those switches that will be turning off the disease ones and on the ones that are helpful to our program and our system, right?
Right, right. And so many people are overwhelmed by, I tried this supplement, it worked for my best friend. I tried it, it didn't move the needle for me at all. I feel broken. They give their power away to that supplement. And, it's kind of gets greenwashed, and they outsource, they have drawers full of supplements. And they're kind of dealing with the same issues day in and day out. They're not really moving the needle on their longevity. They're not seeing it in their skin. They're not feeling it in the way, in their brain fog isn't, going away. They're feeling it stiff stiff joints in the morning, or sluggish detox, sluggish mobility in the gut, and they're getting food sensitivities. These are the things that can easily go away when you have something that's tailored to your genetic weaknesses and specifically formulated for you to bridge the gaps in those weaknesses. So, and it's
Okay,
never
let's
been
see the slide again, because there was a slide put up a second ago with the steps. So the first part is the test. You order the test and the test comes to your home, right? And then when the test comes to your home, you said it's just a cheek swab, so that's easy. Anybody can do that. That's easier than the COVID test.
right. It's
They're
actually
putting that
two.
swab at different places.
Yeah, they make it almost foolproof. So there's 2 cheek swabs. You do one on each side about a half an hour to an hour before it's best to do first thing in the morning, because then you've got, you don't have food particles in there. You're not testing food particles, but they give you 2 cheek swabs. So you do one on one side, you kind of put pressure on your outer of your cheek and you rub on the inside on that. And then you put that in the provided vial. And then you have the other cheek swab. You do it for, 40 seconds on this side, pop it into a prepaid envelope and send it away. So it's that easy.
21 days later, your DNA reports are delivered electronically, and
Yeah.
then they tell you the code complex, and then you order your code complex supplement based upon what the results were.
Correct. And that code complex does take about 3 weeks to get to you as well. Every batch is third-party tested for quality control and contaminant control. I will say that there's not only whole food complexes in there, there's also adaptogens, which are incredible. And then and adaptogens and what they do in the body is they work differently from person to person, but they bring the body into homeostasis, which is balance. There are herbs and amazing adaptogens in there as well. They've really gone above and beyond. There's nothing like I'm aware of on the market for how this is really bridging the gaps in genetic weaknesses.
How many of those supplements do you take a day now that you have it customized to you? How many do you have to take?
So it's designed for 5 in the morning and 5 at night. And if you don't want the capsules, they are vegan. You can open them up and put them in a smoothie. And
well, that's a lot less than what I'm taking. I think I'm up to 15.
And 15 different things that, how your liver has to filter out, right? And this is whole foods. It doesn't put a big burden on your liver.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, that's number 1. I'm so excited to hear what number 2 does, because that one was pretty amazing.
Yeah, and I will say, just today, I was talking to one of my clients. She wasn't aware. She's had many tests, but not this genetic test. And she just recently got her genetic SNP test back. She has been tested for the MTHFR mutations, and they came back negative in a blood serum test. Turns out with her DNA test that she does have one of the variants. So now with that information, not only do you get a customized protocol of your whole food supplementation, I also use that report to customize how we look at other layers. So this is a spoke in the wheel of wellness, right? This is the nutrition piece. But we also look, we lean into foods that are going to support the body systems that where we find weaknesses. So if it's detox pathways, or brain health or heart health, we're going to lean into that. And then I also use it to map out feasting and fasting cycles according to a woman's hormone profile, which is really important. A lot of people have dabbled. Here's another example of where one size fits all doesn't match everyone. Not everyone is meant to fast the same way every day. You need to cycle these things in your hormonal rhythms. And that's where having this layer of the genetic information and layering that into your whole body mind care is takes everything to the next level.
I love it. Okay, I'm so getting this done, because this is actually something I've been thinking about for a while, but I got overwhelmed too. There's so many things on the market, and it's hard to know which does what, right? Because there's so many over layers, and without somebody with your level of knowledge, it's kind of a difficult terrain to navigate. So I'm so happy that we're doing this today. Okay, test number 2.
Okay, test number 2, we can talk about age code. And age code is really the gold standard. This is 10 tests in one, and it tests your biological age. So we've all seen, 2 50-year-olds side by side, and one person has aged well beyond their years. You could see the signs of aging, externally. And the other person could pass for their 30s. And this is where biological age is different from our birth or calendar age. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So often this is chronic inflammation that's wreaking havoc on our cells and our immune system and our organs and our detox pathways.
And that
It's
all comes from
also,
lifestyle.
yes, lifestyle, environment, and basically the 10 test in one blends genetics. It looks at optimization. So we're no longer considering our standard American age-related health decline normalizing disease. We're looking at optimization. And Age Code is really setting a gold standard because they are working with a database of over 1 million people that have got their DNA in the pool. So you're compared to people that are really optimizing. They've partnered with universities from all over the world. And again, this is a beautiful test. You don't need a doctor's appointment. You don't need to go to your doctor's office. It's again sent to your door. This one is a blood sample test, and it's not a dry finger prick test. It's a wet blood sample test, and it looks similar to something like, I don't know if you've seen a continuous glucose monitor where people kind of put a little like a tiny little puck looking thing on their shoulder. It feels I'm sure less than a bee sting, because I've worn one before and I've had bee stings that really, really hurt. But this blood sample can really provide amazing insights into your what's going on at the genetic level. So your biomarkers, your optimization levels, your deficiencies. So
So compare it to the last one that you just told us about. What does this one do that the last one didn't?
So this one looks at the age of your organ systems, your biological age, and it looks at the age of your immune system. It looks at a lot more genetic SNPs. The other one is looking at 103 actionable genes. This one's looking at over 8,000. Actually, a lot more than that, but 8,000 that are actionable. And as the technology catches up to the science of what they're able to test for, they'll be adding that to your report, if that makes sense. It's looking at telomere length, inflammation, and also providing you with optimization lifestyle tips and tools. So foods to avoid, foods to lean into, exercises that you can do to optimize that are good for you. Not everyone should be doing a cold plunge. Because it puts things into context. If your adrenals are taxed and it's showing on your report, you should not be putting yourself into that kind of stress.
Now, could you take this report and then order your supplements from the other company, or do you have to be tested separately for each of these?
Those two I'm going to follow up on that one. I think they might have to, there is a way that you can add some of the reports into SNP nutrigenomics, and that does reduce the cost of SNP nutrigenomics. It's generally a $300 test, $297, and it goes down to $119 if you add your results from age code into your SNPs.
Yep.
So that's a great question.
So, but they don't make, I know they make some products with age code, but they're not making the full customized supplementation the way SNPs
Right.
are.
They don't do the personalized supplementation. They do have recommended nutraceuticals based on your results, but it's not customized for you, formulated for you specifically. And that's the reason why I really feel there's a lot of value with both tests.
Okay. Love it.
Yeah.
Getting somewhere now, honey. Okay. Third test.
So function labs, there's the term is standard testing that you get from your standard conventional doctor. And then there's functional labs, and that's optimized levels. And then Function Labs is the company that I trust. I've got my own, in March, I did my Function Lab report with, it's Dr. Mark Hyman's, if you've heard of him. It's his group that masterminds that he's put together, and he's behind the Function Lab reports. And this place, basically, they've partnered with Quest Labs. So most people across the country, I've had clients in North Carolina that have easily been able to go to Quest Labs to get their results. Basically, you order it online, and they make it seamless to go to the Quest Labs and go and get your test done, to schedule through them. What it does is it measures optimal blood levels. So basically standard testing. And by the way, if you're going to leap and do the age code, you don't need function labs. That's included in your age code, just FYI. But if you're still in the world of standard testing, you're not quite ready to jump to age code, definitely consider doing function labs, because standard blood tests, again, are looking at the average American that's standard for your age group. And when you consider that the average American, 60% of the average American population is on one or more lifestyle medication. And again, going back to why I say lifestyle medication is because it's not necessary to be on these forever meds, because you can correct it with lifestyle. So when you're looking at your optimal levels, you often get early detection of disease. So it's better to do early detection, because then prevention is easier. And not only do you get this information with the function lab results, it also has clinician notes. So it's not just a bunch of numbers. None of these tests are a bunch of numbers that don't mean anything, and you need a PhD to be able to decipher what it actually means for you. There's something you can get out of all of them. Very simple to understand is what I'm trying to say. It's not just a bunch of numbers that is overwhelming and confusing. So function is, they look at autoimmune conditions. So not once in my life of 45 years of going to my doctor and getting my standard test did my doctor ever once ask me, where was I in my hormone cycle before I got my test done? Did you know in your first 10 days of your cycle that your cholesterol is slightly elevated? So imagine you get your results back, the doctor looks at it, and taking that out of context, not putting it into your holistic health map, like where you were in your cycle, they might suggest getting on a statin for cholesterol. So that's just one example of when you're looking at standard results, and or you're not feeling your best, you know something's off, and the doctor's telling you you're within normal range with standard results, and you're feeling far from it. So these function lab tests are so valuable. I mean, it can help you. It's the difference between suffering and not suffering.
Amazing. So I saw on the website there that it's a membership. So is that something that's required in order to do this testing?
So the membership for me was, I think it's $4.99, a $4.99 investment, and I can choose to retest it 6 months and only certain markers. I wouldn't have to retest everything. What was included in, there was a lot of markers included in I think there was over 103 things that they looked at, and standard blood care is like what, 12 things at best, maybe you won't even get your A1C. So why I'm saying that is because based on the results that I got of the included standard brain 103 markers or whatever it was that I got in function, they found markers that alerted them, and without nickel and diming me and coming back and asking for more money, they added 6 or 7 other tests. And what they needed from me wasn't money. They needed my height and they needed my weight. So they, again, they're looking at the whole picture, not just something in a silo, you know, and that's
So
part
they
of,
didn't even ask for that for the initial testing, your height and weight?
you know, they asked me questions like, are you cycling with a period? Have you had a period in the last 12 months? Is your period regular within 3 or 4 days every month and consistent? Those are the kinds of questions that I remembered them asking me. But I'm pretty sure I don't remember them asking me my height. Yeah, I don't think they asked me my height and weight.
So Trish, give me an example. Tell me about a client or somebody that you know that has gone through this testing, and what kind of an impact does this type of knowledge can it make on somebody's health in their life?
Yeah, I mean, it could be the difference of, you know, I've got brain fog, I've got hormonal issues, I've tried everything. I've even tried HRT, or maybe I'm not ready for it. I've had people just really want to up level. They feel pretty good, but they want to prevent conditions. And when they start to get the nuances of fortifying their genetic weaknesses with whole food nutrition, and they start to understand where their nervous system is at, where their adrenals are at, if they've got autoimmune conditions. By the way, I've never in my life told that I've had autoimmune conditions, and on my function lab test, 6 markers came up for me, and I'm working on those. I am personalizing my protocol to optimize my predispositions for my autoimmune condition. So going back to clients' experiences, I'm working with somebody right now that is going through cancer treatment, and she's had multiple blood reports, and none of them showed that she had a MTHFR mutation. Now empowered with this information, and she's taking so many supplements, you know, from her function lab doctor, from her functional health doctor and naturopath, but they're off the shelf, one size fits all. They're not dedicated to her unique genetic predispositions. So now it's going to be really interesting to see where she's at in 3 and 6 months from now, when she's fortifying her genetic weaknesses and how she's feeling on all levels.
Let's talk about cost, because that's obviously a big factor in all of our healthcare. And I know that we, you know, all of us, we spend so much money on our health insurance. We spend so much money on every time you go to the doctor, it's, you know, more money. How much do people have to pay, and how is that, does the cost value ratio work out?
Well, when you think about it, the average person goes to the doctor probably 6 or 7 times. They get misdiagnosed at all those co-pays or out-of-pocket expenses, all the time lost, the struggling, the performance issues, the missed days at work, all of that adds up. That's a huge cost, you know, cost on your health, your relationships. A lot of people, when you're not feeling well, you're more snappy, you're easily triggered by your environment to your loved ones. It takes a toll on relationships.
Yeah.
But
that's a good point. And a lot of people don't really think about all of the ramifications when you're not feeling good. Lost work, relationship difficulties, just all the ramifications that can happen, and just in terms of your quality of life.
Yeah, it takes years off your vitality. When you work at the DNA level, you're adding vitality to the end of life, and you're shortening that time where you're, you know, in morbidity and end of life stage. And when you're working at the DNA level, not just by taking the supplements, but also by optimizing lifestyle and thoughts, and knowing that you can break free from the fear of your family history or genetics, or freedom from the limiting thoughts that a diagnosis or a label can be part of our identity. Like, I'm type 2 diabetic. Well, I'm not, but you know, people that are, it becomes almost like a ball and chain and a lifestyle of I am diabetic. That becomes your identity. Yeah. When in reality, it's a lifestyle disease. Yeah. You know, and knowing what your genetics are and how you can layer in with this information, like how to do a fasting lifestyle to optimize your insulin sensitivity and your hormones and avoid unnecessary medications and lifestyle medications and break the chain of familial histories of inherited quote unquote diseases. This is priceless. But the financial investment in your health when it comes to getting this information and getting there, you know, I've created, it's really important to me to build community around this information because it's so empowering, you know, and I want to do it in group settings and in community settings because it makes it more affordable for everybody and more accessible. And just having conversations with you like this, I think it's so important. But when it comes down to the pocketbook, the SNP Nutrigenomics is a $297 test.
Wow. I thought you were going to tell me it was a lot more expensive than that.
Right. And I feel like I've gotten to know the CEO well. She lives locally in Laguna Beach. She's the owner. I feel like she's heart-centered. She's in the right place. She's definitely had people come to her and say you should be charging much more than this, and that's not where she wants to go with this. So the supplement itself, you know, what do you think the average person spends on supplements every month? And that's just kind of stabbing in the dark and thinking that they might need them, that, you know, your body might not be able to absorb them, or they might be doing more harm than good. You don't know if that's something your body really needs, but I don't know. What do you spend on supplements every month?
Well, and I probably take more supplements than the average, but I'm probably hovering around 500 a month.
Yeah. Yeah. And so if you could have what your body on the genetic level, bridging the gaps in your genetic predispositions and weaknesses, do you think paying $100 or $200 a month would be reasonable?
Oh, yeah.
Well, this is actually $159 a month.
Ooh, that's
So
amazing.
I just, for what's in there, the quality, if you knew, I mean, when you hear about how they do it in the lab and their sources, I mean, I'm surprised she can get it down so low, to be honest. And if you pull out some of the more expensive ingredients in your code complex and you buy them individually, the top 3 most expensive could easily be $200 a month.
Oh, absolutely, for sure.
So
question here from the from our viewer, does it include creatine and collagen, some of the basic staples like that?
not creatine, no. And there might be whole food sources of collagen in there. Again, it's there's a base and it's usually adaptogens. I can get my report. It's right over here, just a moment. But again, because it's so the whole food supplement, the whole food blend is going to be based on your genetics and the dosages as well, and the formats. So not all B vitamins are going to be the same for me as it is in your formula, because I do have 2 of the MTHFR mutations. So there are, this is the list of my
That's what's in your supplements?
Yes.
Wow.
So the first page is pretty much the whole foods, the vitamins, the minerals. And then we have a lot of other things like flaxseed and white tea extract and acai fruit. I mean, the list goes
Send
on.
it to your Chinese medicine doctor, right?
Yeah,
The whole
and
apothecary
actually,
in there.
yes, there is. And in fact, there are some herbs in here as well. There's spirulina powder, there's green tea, there's bilberry, and this is my formula. So your formula might be different based on your genetics. I have some milk thistle in here. I'm just pulling out a few things. Kale powder, gotu koala, artichoke. So, you know, those are liver support things. And it tells you like what genetic weaknesses this particular blend is supporting, which I think is interesting, you know, for a geek like me that wants to nerd out on it. And, you know, there's 2 types of CoQ10 and everyone knows that's great for heart health, but do you need ubiquinone or ubiquinol? And I have the form that's right for me. So not, you might be taking the wrong one for you, and it's not serving your pocketbook or your body.
So Trish, well, before I jump into that question, I want you to give us the cost on the other ones, because there's so many other things I still want to ask you.
Yeah, so age code is the gold standard. It's this, your results can be anywhere from like 30 pages to 100 pages long. That's how detailed your report is, depending on what's going on for you. They are offering a $300 discount right now. So I'm not sure how long that's going to be going for. The test is $14.99. I am offering, for anyone that's interested in doing any of these tests. Oh, we didn't talk about function. Function is $4.99 as well. So I'm offering a review of your results and putting together a 2-week protocol that's customized based on your genetic predispositions. So not only will you be getting the information that the companies are providing you, but we have to bring the whole, these are spokes in the wheel of wellness, and we need to bring it all into context when it comes to how do we fast. We know that fasting could optimize our thrive state, and it's not, and then we sync it to our hormone rhythms to support age appropriate hormones. And
wonderful. So you'll take the test results and you'll sit with us and you'll review everything and help us figure out how to integrate other of these aspects into our life. Because so that was actually my next question. Oh, and how much are you charging for that deal?
Oh, I'm offering that for Harmoneum members and non-members for $200.
Oh my God, we got the smoking deals here today. I feel like it's a home network television. That's amazing.
Well, I'm just really passionate about getting people rolling, and I don't want the finances to be the barrier to entry.
Yes, no, that's beautiful, honey. I appreciate that offer. Let's talk about lifestyle, because we also know that so many of our health factors are, what we're doing in our life, our environment has such a huge role on our health. And so you can take these tests, but do any of them incorporate lifestyle suggestions, or what should people be factoring in about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Function Labs does. They give you a list of foods to lean into that are going to support liver function and gut health and all the things where you need support. They'll even provide a list of foods to limit in your diet. They do talk about exercise and different practices that you can do to calm the nervous system, breath work, grounding. They all get into it at a deeper level at some point in your report. So everything's in there.
Do any of these tests address sleep specifically?
Do they address sleep? In what respect?
In terms of, do they ask or take into consideration how well you're sleeping, or do they offer any solutions for people in terms of supplementation to support sleep?
In the reports that I've seen, I haven't seen sleep recommendations per se. I mean, beyond the standard, like 7 to 9 hours, and I really bring that nuance into the Chinese medicine clock. And if you're not familiar with that, different organs at different times of the 24-hour clock of our 24-hour day cycle get turned on to cleanse and to do their job. And so we really want to be in a deep sleep by, usually like in sleep by 10:30 at night, so that we're getting into these deeper cycles of REM sleep throughout the night, especially when it comes to things like liver time and cleansing the lymphatic system of our brain, which is, we've got the lymphatic system, but we've got the glymphatic system of the brain, which cleans out the junk from the day. It's trying to it's like defragging our brain, our software overnight. So sleep hygiene is really important. And there's, very important, very compelling reasons why you would want to support deep sleep and cycles of deep sleep by getting to bed by 10:30 at night. And that can be a challenge for some. My husband, for one, he's a night owl. He gets his second wind late at night. And if there was a few things in our marriage that I can change, it would be not having a television in the bedroom.
Oh my gosh, I could see that.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. And I love that. And I know that that's something that you work with your clients on looking at their different lifestyle choices and ways that our health and our vitality is impacted by things like And then also about practices. Obviously that's something in Harmoneum that we preach a lot on, and that is, how do you integrate practices into your life that are supportive of your health system, right? So it's not just the foods we eat and the supplementation, but it's also, how are you spending your time when you're not eating and supplementing?
Yeah, when we're not in that fed state, it's such an important state to be in on a regular basis, because it's the reason why diet and exercise isn't enough anymore, and the reason why it isn't working at some point, it just doesn't get you the results that you used to get, is because we get accumulated waste and toxins in our system, and we don't tap into the other half of our metabolism, which is ketosis. And that doesn't happen until like 13 to 15 hours of a fasted state. And especially if you're metabolically unfit, you might need to go longer. And ketones are produced by the liver. It's your other fuel source, because sugar is your fuel source. When any food that you put in your mouth breaks down to sugar into the blood, that's your fuel source. But once you burn through that sugar only at about 13 to 15 hours, then you start making ketones in the body. Your brain thrives on ketones. It's really important to get your body into ketosis on a regular basis. The other thing is that gets a lot of attention is, if we have time, I'll touch on it real quick, is how we optimize our internal terrain. So we often think of parasites and heavy metals as things that we have to go after and push and pull out of the body. But that's it's not the easiest way, and it can often cause more havoc than not in the body. So we really need to go in and nourish the body emotionally, mentally, and physically. And that's what I love to empower people with doing, and doing that in a rhythm that syncs with your natural hormonal rhythms and your sleep-wake cycles to optimize repair.
Totally. Well, and that's definitely something I wanted to touch on today, because I feel like there's a growing awareness, and we're having a better understanding now about the emotional roots of physical illness, and understanding how much we can affect our health by our emotion. How do you weave emotional detox into these health plans or into the consulting that you do?
I'm so happy you asked. So I refer back to ancient wisdom, Chinese medicine. It's 5,000 to 8,000 years old. And we know that certain emotions sit in our tissues. We get issues in our tissues, whether it's generational or ours to carry. Energy and emotions are energy in motion. They create chemicals in the body, and a natural, whether it's a heavy emotion like fear or anger or resentment, there's no such thing as a bad emotion, but there is such thing as getting emotions stuck in the body. And a healthy emotional response should be about 90 seconds, whether it's joy, bliss, happiness, gratitude, orgasm, whatever, or anger or fear or, resentment. 90 seconds. It moves through the body and it gets out, and you express it in a healthy way, and you have a good relationship with being able to communicate how you feel, and it doesn't sit in the body. However, a lot of us, if we're alive and breathing today, we get emotional stagnation in the body. And so in Chinese medicine, we talk about how anger, if you're feeling easily triggered, if you're extra snappy, if you're irritable, if you have trouble with forgiveness, whether that's for yourself or for others. And by the way, forgiveness is always for yourself. It's not for the other person. And that might be the greatest gift you can ever give yourself. That's another story we'll talk about another time. But if you just have trouble letting go of the past, or you're bringing crap from past experiences to your present, this is time where emotional toxicity, and these are signs that it's sitting in your body. If you're bloated and constipated, food sensitivities, again, that creates the physical imbalance, but it's an emotional imbalance as well. So one of my greatest, most pleasurable things that I love to do with people is introducing them to how to do an emotional detox. And it is really exciting. It's a nourishing emotional detox. The word detox can be triggering for me personally, because I feel like it gets bastardized, for lack of a better word, and misused and mistreated and misunderstood. I think the future of nourishing our body at the cellular level and nourishing our emotional well-being and our physical well-being, and having a healthy relationship with our emotions and expressing ourselves in a way where we feel seen and heard, and it's effective. We're not having the same conversations with our loved ones over and over and feel like we're just not getting anywhere. That's not emotional wellness, right? We need to be able to express how we feel, whether it's a heavy emotion or a lighter emotion to deal with, and we need to feel seen and heard. So this is part of the piece that I love to explore in the Mangold method, and it's just a beautiful thing to witness and to link arms with people and to explore.
And that's what I love about the way you coach, Trish, is that you do such a holistic approach. You know, you talk about hydration, you talk about emotional detox, you talk about balancing your rhythm of your cycles. You talk about, I mean, you really take a very holistic approach, which I think is so important, especially for, you know, people who are kind of new to this game, who are kind of just approaching health and wellness for the first time, and it can all be so overwhelming. And then also, you don't want to just do a deep dive in one area and just be worried about supplementation and thinking that's going to be the one-stop shop. You know, there is no one thing fixes all, right? It does take a whole integrated approach to health and wellness, and I love that you always bring that to the table. So before we wrap up, what I would love to find out, if somebody's watching this and they're ready to take action, and I know we have a web page, so we're going to give out information where they can have all the links to all of the things that you talked about today. So for sure, we're going to do that. But do they need to start by talking to their doctor? What does somebody need to wrap their head around if they're ready to start with some sort of personalized assessments?
Okay. Well, if you are under the care of a doctor, if you are under the care of a doctor, it's always advisable to, this is not medical advice because I don't know what your condition is. It's hard to make a blanket one size fits all statement because there isn't. So please, yes, talk to your trusted healthcare provider. If you feel like you don't have one that's not listening to you and seeing, you know, if you don't feel like you're getting the answers you're looking for, I'm happy to have a consultation with you and to see where to get started. You know, the question you're asking is, where does one get started and what's the next best step? I honestly believe that letting this, if there's one thing that I've said today or that we've discussed today, and if it stood out to you and it makes the hair on your neck stand up, or if it makes you curious, lean into that, listen to your body and trust your intuition, and know that you can take your power back, because we've been led to believe that, you know, we have to outsource our power to a label, a diagnosis, chasing symptoms. I mean, it's just exhausting, and we're not our symptoms. We are human beings. We are actually, we have 10 times more microbiome in our bodies than we do human cells. And what that actually means, our microbiome, and a lot of us have heard of it, but what the heck does it mean? It starts in our mouth, it ends at the other end, but it's also on our skin, and it's in every cell, and it's responsible for so much communication to the outside world. So I invite people to just sit with themselves for a minute. And if something stood out to you, trust your instincts and lean into something and just explore and know that you have so much more power than you've been led to believe. I hope that answered the question.
Great one. And can they email you?
Yes, you can email me.
Okay, because I can just see now that the people are going to be rolling in. Which one should I take? So definitely email Trish. We're going to put all of her contact information in the description as well. But it's Trish or is it? Yeah.
Elevatewithtrish@gmail.com. Elevatewithtrish@gmail.com. Or, if you're going to do one, and if you're just like, I just want to do one thing, I would really lean into the SNP nutrigenomics, because you're getting a whole food supplement that's personalized to you. And you're getting insights into 103 actionable genes. And that's an amazing, your genes are your blueprint. So it's an amazing blueprint to build your architect, to build your body that you want to have and in the direction that you want to go. So having that insight to personalize your next best steps. Like, not everyone needs to go and jump in take a IV therapy. Let's look at the inside out job, not the outside in. Does that make sense? So we're nourishing from the inside out.
I love it, honey. Thank you so much. Every single time we talk, I'm always come away with so much information. And because of that, we're going to be doing it again.
Yay.
We have another podcast coming up very soon. We'll be recording in June. We'll be in the same room together, which is even better. What will be the subject of the next session? Have you picked that yet?
Yeah, we're going to be, again, we're working on the theme of nourishing from the inside out and bringing in the emotional piece, the physical and the spiritual aspect of it. We're going to be looking at using whole food, fermented enzymes that act like little Pac-Man going through your internal terrain and clearing out what's no longer serving you and optimizing your functions so that you can be feeling lighter, healthier, and more vital. And I've partnered with some people in a great team in Laguna Beach. Actually, I'm going to be walking people through a 3-day or a 7-day reset and pairing it with Qigong, which is about moving breath and body and syncing our energy, moving energy through the body. So I think if anyone's interested in that, that'll be June 16th, but we have a Q&A coming up on June 10th. So if you want to reach out on that, I'm happy to share information with that as well.
Great, great, great. Well, I am so looking forward to our next conversation and every conversation for that matter. Thank you so much for coming on today, Trish. And like I said, all the information is going to be in the description. And that's a wrap.
Thank you, Delphine.
Thanks, guys.
We're so grateful you joined us for this episode of Delphine Circle. Don't forget to subscribe, comment, and share. And for even more connection, sign up for a free community membership at harmoneum.com. See you there.